More dangerous, but for who?
When?
Hybrid Heaven, tough as hell. From Konami.
Hybrid Heaven was released in August of 1999 by Konami and was developed by its Osaka branch for the Nintendo 64. The game had a fair amount of hype built up for it, and getting to be the cover for that month's Nintendo Power, and I suppose that's fair. After all, it's one of the few RPGs for the system, and it was made by 90s Konami, who were releasing some of their best games at the time. I found this article, which states the game was meant to be the Osaka branch's equivalent to Metal Gear Solid, so this game had some high standards to live up to. Fortunately, the game seemed to fall just a bit short. Most of the reviews at the time seemed to put it at 7 or 6, generating mostly okay scores, and it's mostly faded to obscurity now, though if you look hard enough, you can find people who both really like the game and really dislike it. Hello everyone, Giant Space Crab Grab here. Welcome to this review and retrospective on Hybrid Heaven. If you look below, the video should be chaptered out into the various little segments so that you can skip ahead, so avoid plot spoilers or jump to any segment that you particularly want. Uh, but there's nothing else extra special here to announce, so let's just go ahead and put this thing in our N64 and start playing. Alright, so as the game begins, we get production logos, like I said, developed and published by Konami, so those are the only two we get. And then we get this little scene with this little guy jumping on our expansion pack. This is just basically letting us know that we have an expansion pack and it's been installed and working properly. If you don't know, the N64 basically had this expansion pack accessory that you could put in to essentially double the console's RAM. It went from 4 megabytes to 8 megabytes. So with this installed, your game should run smoother and look better. Following that, we get a fade to black and then a synth boom to let us know that we have arrived at our title screen. In the back, we can see the New York City skyline, and the title is right there. I don't really like the font for the game, at least in this blue. It just kind of looks smushed. The whole game kind of has some issues with that. I don't know if it was my recording software or something I'll address here in a minute. But once we descend down the tower, I think it looks fine. It is a bit weird, though, how different it is from the cartridge and box art for the game. There's no smoldering anime guy, and weirdly enough, I don't think this crew ever assembles like that throughout the entire game. That weirdness aside, if we press start, we can see that we have a few different options here. New game and continue, both of those are normal. Battle mode, I'd expect that to be some sort of multiplayer. Sound is probably just the sound options, and resolution. What? Once I got over my initial confusion, I just assumed this would be some way to like angle it, if you guys know what I'm talking about in older video games where you can sort of scoot screens left and right. But no, this is, they have 3 different resolutions, and I tried the others, and as you can see here, it lags out my game. I have no idea how you're supposed to do this, or maybe this is meant to run without the expansion pack to make the game look better. I've watched other playthroughs and I've seen people having what looks to be a better looking game. I don't know if they got these to work and I'm just dumb or something, but I played the game on the low native resolution and it made some of the areas look bad. I think that might be why the texture on the title screen looks a little like fuzzy. I don't think it's an ugly game, and I can't really judge it if I'm playing it on the low textures, but I also have no idea how to play it on the higher textures. That weirdness aside, let's just start playing the game. So once we start the game, we get a few choices of difficulties. If you beat the game, you actually unlock more. I didn't do that, it's the same game. Game saves just fine here on a controller pack, and I'm not gonna play with a rumble pack, and here we go. Oh, a cutscene. So originally I intended to just let the cutscene play, but it is about 6 minutes long, and I kind of wanted to talk during my video, if you can believe it, so I'll just break down what happens as it plays at double speed in the background. This character is watching the news nude like you do when he sees that Russia and the United States are entering peace agreements over some nuclear weapons. Apparently it's going to be global peace announced on Christmas Day. It's currently the 23rd, after which he gets up to take a shower, and I really do hope that semi-nude anime guys don't become a reoccurring theme throughout my channel. After his shower, he hears a knock at his door, and then this guy informs us that we are in charge of switching the president out with his doppelganger so that the invasion can go through without a mistake. We also have to meet Mr. Diaz in New York since he'll have the tools and weapons we need to make this plan actually work. He also tells us we should get dressed and act human once we get topside, whatever that means. This cutscene's only a third of the way done, by the way. Our main character now gets a call from his girlfriend. We learn that his name is Johnny and that we're supposed to meet at the DC Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas. This game takes place during Christmas, if you didn't know. Then there's a cool transition into the New York subway where we see our girlfriend standing there. A guy standing with two of the most Fed-like looking human beings you will ever see as our main character starts to make his way down the stairs, ignoring his girlfriend, who then calls out to him to try to get his attention, and he just keeps walking on to this guy. We can assume this is the Mr. Diaz that we're supposed to meet for the tools and the weapons that we need to switch the president. Then Mr. Diaz starts hearing voices and pulls out a gun and shoots our main character in the head, killing him. And then our main character, or I guess not our main character, whatever he was, despawns like a Kamen Rider villain. The feds freak out about there being a witness, but are more concerned about getting Diaz under control and drag them to some hidden subway elevator thing. Diaz then senses that this is his opportunity to become a main character, breaking free from his first captor, punching him so hard he also despawns like a Kamen Rider villain as the elevator begins to descend, and it goes further, and further down than you could ever believe. I have no idea how far down this game is supposed to take place, and throughout the struggle, Diaz actually gets knocked off the elevator as the voices begin to overwhelm him, and we just fall faster than it. Then magically just sort of float there. Oh my god, one day I'll play a normal game on this channel. We're now in front of this gigantic door. We walk and, yeah, this is actual gameplay now. Alright, so Diaz really is our main character. Wasn't sure if the game was going to throw a third one that just sort of spawns out of nowhere. We start to walk forward, these drones start bugging. They don't actually attack us or anything yet at this point, so we just pull out our gun and fire at them. The gun mechanics are a little weird. You can't exactly aim it, and it kind of auto-aims where it wants to go. And you have to hold down R and press A to shoot, and while you're shooting you can't like run and gun, so it's a little annoying. The rest of the controls are mostly fine. The best way I can describe it is imagine like a clunky old school Tomb Raider. I've never actually played them, but this is just what I imagine they would look like. I tried to go back here to see if there's any secrets in the little opening area, but there's not. We do have a little mini map that is kinda helpful. Nothing is really labeled, and you just kind of have to know which direction you came from, but as long as you're paying attention, it's nice. You can make that show up and go away with the B button. Coming into this room, we see a person, a little afraid he would attack us given what happened above, but I guess the news of our betrayal hasn't gotten down here yet. He instead informs us that something has triggered the security alarm, so I wonder what that could be, and because of that though, all of the codes and the code cards have changed, and we have to go to the code card updater conveniently located near us to get them updated. Unfortunately, our Diaz actually doesn't have our code key, but this guy is super cool and lets us borrow his. Crazy. So we make our way over to the code key password updater computer thing. On the way here, we found a couple enemies and a few chests, actually, that we opened up to get healing items that heal us, if you can believe that. The enemies can attack us now. They do 5 damage. Our health bar is 100. In case you're wondering, the little blue circle on the top left is our health bar. If we ever take damage or if we're in real fights, it actually shows the numerical value, so you don't just have to guess from the picture or check the status menu. And once we have our new updated key, we can go back to an earlier door that was underneath the scientist that gave us the code card and unlock a new area. I guess this is kind of a action-adventure Metroidvania, as loosely as I can use that title. Considering we never really get new items, it's just updates to the password on our code key that lets us unlock more doors. The game is pretty linear, especially at this point, so I'm just sort of skipping around to show some of the big ideas here. As you can see, there's this slight puzzle solving. I can't get past that blue wall there, so I take a quick look around. I see that enemy and this strange box. Once I shoot that box, I see that now there's a blue switch behind it. Take out the blue switch, the blue wall goes down. That's about the extent to most of the puzzles, though sometimes you do have to look and find them. This is a save spot. You actually have to save at these. You can't just save wherever, but they also double as full heals, which are nice. So if you're playing along at home, remember where these are, because the minimap doesn't actually mark any of the rooms you've been to or what's in them, unfortunately. Eventually we end up finding ourselves in this room where we can do whatever our character is doing right now. There's no inner monologue or voice acting outside of the intro and outros of the games, so at this point we have no idea why Diaz has betrayed these people or what he's doing outside of... No, we just don't know anything. We see him unlock this weird computer extension here and, casually walk his way up forward to it, and then it starts to explode data everywhere. It shows us some sort of cube matrix thing in a language that 100% is not in my knowledge. Then it goes to yellow alert and then red alert. And whatever we did just now was actually bad because the alarm starts to sound. Well, we start to panic like anyone does after setting an alarm and try to get out of the area. Occasionally you'll see me do that, move around like that. I think my my old N64 controller wasn't calibrated right, so occasionally my movement was a little bit. I don't blame that on the game. I think that's on me. But as we're beating our hasty retreat, we actually get stopped at this door by this guy, who is very surprised to see Diaz at a level this low. He starts trying to figure out who opened the cells, which is unleashing the bioweapons. Again, we have no clue what any of this is. He kind of actually puts the pieces together that it's us. We're the people that opened up the bioweapons. No idea why. And then we get this crazy POV shot of presumably these bioweapons as it kills this guy, who, Kamen Rider explodes. Then I guess it's up to us to fight this monster. We do have our trusty gun, so I'm sure that'll make quick work of this just terrible, terrible beast. And... what? Now, I do very little research into these games before I play them, and I was absolutely floored the first time I saw this. And when I pressed A and saw that little menu popped up, I was even more just astounded. I had no idea what was going on. Yeah, this is basically a turn-based boxing game. Or kickboxing, I guess, because we also have... I guess it's turn-based MMA game, because we also have grapples. I'll cover the system a little more in depth when I get to the mechanics video, and obviously as an RPG, when we level up, we do get more combat options, but what you're seeing here is mostly about where the game kind of stays at. We do unlock more moves, and we unlock some combos, which we see later on. But for the most part, it is just punching, grappling, and trying to stay out of your enemy's reach, which is actually huge in this game. Hugely important is to just not be in their reach. And believe it or not, that is the basics of the game, kind of laid out. Half of it is this action-adventure platformer with some really bad gunplay, but for the most part, it's fine. I wouldn't go out of my way to play it, but it is fine. It's not offensively bad. And the other half is this combat system, which I really dig, though there are a few problems, which I'll get into as I go further into the mechanics. But outside of that, that's about the same. There are bosses, but bosses typically just have some unique gimmicks to their fight. Like some of them will have more ranged attacks, and some of them will be able to attack faster, but they fight the same as normal enemies. Conversely, the platforming segment only changes twice. The environments are mostly the same, which is a very common complaint of the game, is that you actually never leave this underground dungeon. But they do make a good job of making an atmosphere. Here you can see some of the bioweapons are still locked up, so you get to see them in their spooky little previews, which I appreciate. because these guys are some horrifying monstrosities. Now, I thought I'd clarify just so people know that there is a little bit of variance in the overworld sections. There's basically two zones, or one real zone, and then this little area where you basically have to run away from an unkillable boss in the zone I'm not showing and fight this guy. You basically just have to learn his patterns or just tank through him, get close enough and shoot him. Eventually he'll fall over dead and you can progress, but honestly that's about it as far as gameplay variance goes. I think I said this, but just to really lay it on, this part isn't good, but it's not like terrible either. It's perfectly fine for an N64 action adventure game, though perhaps if you've been, played Metal Gear Solid, your standards were a little set high. I can understand how this would disappoint you, but we have to remember that this is only half the game. After all, there is the battles with the monsters that uses something similar to the active time battle system from the Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy. It's a little tweaks different enough, I guess, to avoid copyright, or I don't even know if you can copyright a battle system like that, but it's its own thing. I guess this is now where I'll get into the mechanical breakdowns of the video. Alright, so in the background I'm going to have a high-level sort of in-game fight playing out. And while that's going, I was just going to talk over some of the more basic mechanics that you can find throughout the game, and you'll also notice the footage back there is eerily similar to the first fight with a few extra mechanics that get thrown in as you get further into the game. So firstly, if you're wondering how you learn new moves, you gotta get hit by them. Your guy can't make any creative decisions by himself. He basically has to copy what he sees the enemies doing. You also can't learn moves until you're of a certain level, and the game never clearly communicates what level you need to be. I'm sure somebody out there has a spreadsheet that tells you everything, but I couldn't find it. Now, if you pay attention up there, you can see the power bar is slowly generating. Once it gets to that little quarter, you can use it to attack with, but if you let it wrap around, once you're high enough level, it'll actually stack, and you can do what is called a combo, which is multiple strikes. You can't combo with the grapples, unfortunately. It's kind of sad. And then once you finally have the full meter to yourself, you actually unlock like a special combo. You have to look them up. I have no idea if you're supposed to learn those in-game anywhere. I just found them and just copied them over, and once you do them, you actually get like an extra move on it, which is very helpful to do more damage to the enemies because these guys have a lot of health. Now every so often you'll see a little defensive options flash against my screen when the enemy's attacking me. The enemy equally gets access to everything you can do. So while you're trying to hit them, they can do these things. The issue is you can't actually do these things. It's a dice roll, and it's basically based on your comparison to the enemy, and you'll rarely ever find yourself at a point that you're so high level against an enemy that your guards will work. Maintaining your distance gives you some boost. I can't put a mathematical number on it, but I do notice that it does matter a lot. This is one of the extended combos I was talking about. So you see we hit the 4 or 5 times like we should, and then we get our extra in. And as you can see there, our stamina bar is basically fine. Our stamina is only really tied to our grapples. If it's too low, we can't do certain grapples, and it looks like our power bar charges faster when it's at full. Running and dodging also lower our stamina bar. As much as I like grappling, I ended up just kind of stopping it once I got to this part in the game because there's some finicky stuff with it, which I'll get into deeper when I go into the further things. Another little thing I want to cover is that there is limb damage in this game. Basically, if you keep targeting a limb, it'll get damage. If the enemy keeps targeting it, it'll get damage. It's not necessarily concurrent. I don't know exactly if you have certain limb health. But each one of them does something. If you get a head injury, it's you're stunned for a little bit. If you get a body injury, you can't recover your stamina. Arms and legs basically stop you from punching or kicking with that arm or leg and slow you down. There's also some status conditions. You can get stunned where you can't get up for a minute, and that really sucks. There's poison, which drains your health, and then there's also slow, which slows you down. There's also crits and crit fails in this game. I have no idea what triggers them, but if you do crit, it'll say awesome, and you'll do way more damage. If you get crit, same thing. If you crit fail, it'll say weak, and you'll hit for like 0, and the enemy will hit you for 0. Might be distance based, like you have to hit the kick perfectly where it needs to go. I can't really tell. Here's the level up screen. After every fight, you level up something. In addition, your individual limbs level up depending on how you use them. So if you keep throwing out left jabs, your left arm will be stronger than your right arm. Same with kicks. Grappling tends to level up weird parts of your body. And then getting those body parts hit will actually raise their defenses. So I figured I'd use this guy as an example for boss gimmicks as well as the items, since he likes spamming items as well as being a boss whose gimmick is that he spams items. So to quickly go through the items, there's basically 3 broad categories. There's ones that heal you or heal your stamina, beneficial items. Ones that just flat do damage to your opponent, such as Fire Shot, the Tornado Shots. They all have improved versions called like Hurricane Shot SP, for example, hits 3 times instead of once and does more damage on those 3 individual hits, so it's really good. Items are very limited. You have to use what you find. There is no store in the game, so use them. You'll never be at a point where you are desperate for them, at least not on the normal difficulties. And then finally, the last couple are like stat boosters, to raise your attack and defense, and then also lower your opponent's attack and defense or recover from that happening to you. There is another item, or rather 2 item types, but they are just so very specific to their own. One you can't use in combat. It's basically just flat stat boost. You use it, your attack permanently goes up, so I didn't really count it here. And the other you can use in combat so long as you're not fighting a boss. It's called like the Ring Eraser, and it basically just gets rid of the enemy. You don't get the XP. So those are your items. This guy is a boss. Bosses have somewhat of a gimmick to them. A lot of them spam the items. A few of them can combo you, and there is one that has this very annoying thing where if you approach him, he actually does this quick little jab that doesn't register as an attack to push you away. It doesn't do damage, but you're too far away to actually hurt him. You basically have to just get combo and run up to him and sort of do a 1, 2, 3 and only hit on 2 and 3, or use your legs to get like a large range kick on him, or use an item to knock him down and then approach him and punch him while he's getting up. But that's really it for the basic mechanics of the game. There is something else I want to talk about, but it's not quite mechanics, but I don't know where else to put it. So this is sort of a middle, like early game fight, and I've tried to guard. I fail, so the guy gets through my guard, knocks me down, and before I can do anything, he grabs me. I hit the take fall option. It fails because, again, my opponent's stronger than me, and then he combos me again. Fortunately, I do manage to step away, but that isn't the only time something like that happens. It's very real that an enemy could potentially grab you, throw you to the ground. Oh, your head goes red, and then they hit you with a ground attack. Oh, now you're slow to get up. They hit you with a second ground attack. Now you finally get up, and they hit you with an actual attack, and you're dead before you get a chance to heal. It's very annoying. I understand that I do basically the same thing to the enemies, but it's very frustrating. And also makes going for grapples real annoying, because sometimes you can initiate the grapple, and the enemy just hits you instead, and now my head's red because I went for a grapple. He hits me with the ground attack, and I'm dead? Question mark? If I'm not, it's by the skin of my teeth. But I'm literally helpless on the floor, and I can't do anything, and it's this very frustrating system. Mashing the A button as fast as I could when I got up, and again, I just get kicked in the head, and it's over. I only died like 4 or 5 times during my whole playthrough, and if they died during combat, it was always a chain like that I just couldn't really get out of, until I learned that enemies kind of have a tail for when they attack, and just started dodging them. If you do the control stick twice in a direction, you move over to the side, and once you do that, the enemy's attacks just sort of miss because they're out of whiff range. And it makes the game a lot easier, but it's not a guarantee, and I can't tell you the reads for all the enemies if there is any. But normally when they stop, pause, and sort of change their angle, it means that there's an attack coming. But even when it doesn't lethal you, just getting knocked around like that helplessly in this type of game is very frustrating. It's like if you were playing a turn-based RPG and the enemy just could stun you every turn with like no sort of break in between, or no, when you step out to stun, you get a free turn, or you get the rest of your turn. It's just annoying. But with all that covered, that's the mechanics for the fighting part of the game. So I guess the big part now is the plot breakdown. So get ready, because this is a lot. So where we last left off, Diaz had gone rogue, assassinating Johnny and unleashing the bioweapons in the whole facility, beating the first boss since us these double doors, and this guy whacks us in the head with his katana. After that, we're soon captured by these two guys. Silver is the one with the katana, and Hunter is the one in the purple suit. They explained we were supposed to play an instrumental part of this organization's plan. Apparently, we were supposed to help switch out the president with a body double, which would help with our organization taking over the world. Unfortunately for them, we went rogue, so they have to rely on someone else to swap the body double president in, and they now have to reprogram us by sending us to the brainwashing floor. However, just as they are about to send us, something malfunctions, and our pod ends up on Dr. Brose's floor instead. Now you may be wondering, who is Dr. Brose? Well, he's one of the body doubles / mad scientists that help run this place. And since we're on his floor, it is now up to him to capture us. However, he's not one to do things by his hands, so instead he has this giant unkillable monster to fight us. You actually can't even fight this thing, you just have to run away from it in the overworld section of the game, only getting a break if you manage to hide behind a door or slide into an area too small for it to follow you. Speaking of areas too small for it to follow you, we ultimately get away by sliding into this little vent that was opened up by a mysterious voice calling out to us. A voice belonging to this little alien guy. He's quick and takes us to his hideout with his other fellow little aliens, and we learn a lot here. Firstly, these guys are called Gargantuans. They are mostly a peaceful species who like spending their time traveling around the cosmos. When they're doing so, they're typically in some sort of cryostasis. However, this time one of them woke up early and was actually evil and capable of violence, and quickly took over the ship and piloted it towards Earth. This whole facility is actually a part of the spaceship that they use to sort of safely explore planets after they land. So after this evil one took over the whole little alien facility and the Gargantuans, he began, kidnapping humans and replacing them with body doubles, as well as making these monsters. His plan is to basically replace all the important humans on Earth with body doubles and, have a giant monster army and then take over the planet and I guess rinse and repeat until he controls the galaxy or something. Alright, so this next part also reveals that we're not actually Diaz. This might be a little confusing. I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible. You see, we're the real Johnny Slater, who's supposed to be a Secret Service member for the President of the United States of America. We had been captured and they tried to make a clone of us. These Gargantuans rescued us and managed to capture the clone Diaz. They managed some sort of device that lets us look like Clone Diaz and sends us back out with the intention to kill Clone Johnny and then return to rescue all the Gargantuans. So just to reiterate, we are real Johnny disguised to look like Clone Diaz. Clone Diaz has actually been captured. We don't know anything about what happened to real Diaz, and Clone Johnny was killed by us. Everybody good? Alright. As the aliens are explaining this, their facility gets attacked by Silver, who's looking for us. While looking for Diaz, he manages to take the Clone Diaz body and take some of the Gargantuans, and we flee. We fight through more and more of the facility until we eventually make our way to this elevator. On this elevator, we meet one Mr. Kevin Young. See, Kevin is actually the hybrid that's in charge of taking our spot on the Kidnap the President mission. And he's wasted no time, already kidnapping the president and swapping him with a clone. He now has the president somewhere in the facility and is currently downloading his memories. So on top of that, he's also able to figure out that we're working alongside the Gargantuans, and I think piece together that the fake Diaz that was running around is actually us. Which ultimately culminates in us fighting him, but not before he gets to do his cool anime final form transformation. And once he's defeated in the same manner as everyone else, you can get the memory card, which has the president's memories on it from his office, and begin rescuing the actual president. Once we save the president from the blue machine, we can actually take him to the Gargantuan town, where he'll be safe and sound. It's here where the Gargantuans inform us of their plan to, safely get us out of here, get them out of here, and stop the monsters. Basically, we need to get this being known as the Navigator, which is currently located in the center, scariest part of the dungeon, get them back up to the top so that they can fly the spaceship and flee, basically taking everybody with them and, stopping the machines that make the monsters. And of course, we're the only person able to fight since the Gargantuans are tiny little dudes that can't fight anything and the president's wounded from getting his brain drained. While we're fighting on further and further down to the facility, we actually see that the clone Diaz has woken up and is currently manhunting us. We do manage to sneak around him instead of just outright fighting him for now and manage to make our way to the Navigator, who is this spectacular little golden floating being who is apparently powering this part of the entire sector to run like this. He warns us that just because he's coming with us doesn't make us any more safe, and anything, it probably makes it more dangerous since the sector is not going to have power in certain parts. Regardless, it's still a necessary step for the Gargantuans' master plan of freeing themselves and by extension saving the people of Earth. So he fuses with us to, I guess it's easier than just having him float behind us the whole time. And with that, we have step 2 of the plan. We've saved the president, we've saved the Navigator. Now what we gotta do is return to the Gargantuans and then get the Navigator to the top of the ship. On our way back up, we run into Dr. Bros again, who in an attempt to get the Navigator back, traps us in a room with not just one of these big mega monsters that we can't fight, but 2 of them, with the other being a special shiny red form that is capable of doing ranged missile attacks. Fortunately though, the beasts are mindless and it's pretty easy to convince one to run into the other's attacks and die. And then you just need to convince this one to run into this wall over here where he just slips and falls into his unfortunate demise. After killing those 2, we fight and defeat Dr. Bros, and then make our way back to the Gargantuans' little hideout. But upon our arrival, we see no Gargantuans and no presidents. Instead, there's just this random lady sitting on this table. She tells us that she's Anna Moody, and she's actually one of the body swap victims. She's one of the people that works at the White House. And that the president and the Gargantuans were here just a minute ago, but unfortunately a whole bunch of people dressed in black took them, obviously other clone people. Then she reveals this is actually a trap and that she's been tied to some sort of explosive. Johnny gets closer in an attempt to disarm it, and then she pulls out a super taser and super tases us. See, she was one of the hybrid clones, and she was actually working in conjunction with Clone Diaz, who is here, doesn't even care that we have the Navigator or anything. Instead, this is very personal for him. He wants to kill us for the time that we spent masquerading as him. Wounded his pride. Unfortunately, since, we have the Navigator with us and there's no real power, holding up structural integrity of this place, the place starts to fall apart around him. So we keep trying to run up to the surface where we run into Anna again, and she's having a conversation with Silver as she realizes that all the clones in the underground are disintegrating, as is the shelter, because the Master has basically activated his escape protocol. So this place would be falling apart even without us taking the Navigator. She realizes how expendable she is, as well as all other monsters and people that he's made in his grand scheme, seeing as that he can just always make more. Feeling totally dejected, she decides to assist us for this last little bit. Unfortunately though, she's not fast enough to keep up with us on our escape and perishes in her attempt. Then we make it to just outside the actual spaceship proper, and now we have boss rush mode as we have to fight Silver, then defeat Hunter. Then the Master, the evil Gargantuan, hits us with a psychic blast that knocks us up against the wall and pins us there, and we're rendered helpless. That is until the President of the United States decides to back us up. Thanks to the president's football tackle, we are able to escape the psychic hold and get back on our feet, and now we're able to fight the master, who we're able to make tap out to the figure 4 leg lock. After that, we save the president, return the navigator, save the gargantuans, and the game's over. Except that it's not actually over. The master reveals himself to be a parasitic life form that had actually possessed him. That's why he's evil as opposed to the natural goodness of a gargantuan. And now we have to fight his parasite form. Unfortunately, despite his cool little entrance, this form is probably one of the weakest enemies in the whole game. He's so big that you can just sort of hide in his blind spot until your combo charges and then go crazy. In addition, a lot of his attacks just have really weird hitboxes that, well, don't connect as much as they should. After he's finally defeated, he reveals he's not actually defeated. He has a third and final form. Alright, one more fight, let's do this. So after about a dozen kicks, we managed to beat the final form for the master, whose body has to super explode so that there's no evidence left of him. Now, Johnny and the president can finally escape. Except for the fact that they can't, because guess what? Clone Diaz is back. Yeah, there's one more final fight. And after defeating Diaz like we defeated everybody else, Johnny and the president can actually escape. Now that the two of them, and the entire world, and the gargantuans are all safe, the president orders Johnny to take some much-needed vacation time, saying that he'll deal with the fake clone president. So Johnny listens and takes a cab from New York to DC to meet Holly. That's the girlfriend from the beginning of the game, who, if you remember, wants to meet us by the tree in DC.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So that's the plot to Hybrid Heaven. I think it's fun. I like how over the top it is. It's ridiculous. But then again, this is a game about suplexing aliens, so I don't think any plot any less ridiculous would have sufficed. All in all, though, I think the game's just okay. The overworld parts play sort of mediocre, and the combat system, while interesting, is it's much more wide than it is necessarily deep, so it gets boring after a minute. The game becomes kind of a slog after the, I'd say the 8th or 9th hour. It's about 12 hours, 13 to beat. If you go hunt out old articles or even the old E3 footage for this game, you can tell they wanted a little bit more from it. It was originally considered to be developed for the 64's disk drive system, which I think would have helped a lot. Though it's unfortunate that the voice acting is only at the beginning and the end, but when it's 64 cartridge, you only have so much space to work with. I think this game would have done a lot better with the additional data that a disc could provide. Fortunately, we didn't get to see it since the disc drive, I think, sold very poorly in Japan and never even made its way to the States. Would love to see what somebody can do with this kind of combat system or anything like that nowadays. I think you could make it like maybe you buy complex moves and you combo into grapples. I think there's a lot of stuff that could be worked off from here that is just sort of sitting in unknown obscurity. I think the music and the sound effects are really good, but that is to just sort of be expected from Konami. The animations could be a little tighter. A lot of the enemies are too big or too small, so when you go to grapple them, you just clip through them. You still hit the grapples, but it just kind of looks a little scuffed and, low budget. There isn't a whole lot in the way of replayability either. There is the multiplayer mode. It also has a survival mode, but outside of that, I think one playthrough is all you really need for this game. I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's great. I think there's some cool ideas that unfortunately never got developed on, and would love to see a sequel or spiritual successor sort of pick up and run with this. So I guess for final rankings, I'll give it 4 figure 4 leg locks out of 4. Thank you for watching and giving me like 40 minutes of your day. Even if you just have me on as background noise, I just appreciate everyone that visits the channel and interacts in some way, shape, or form. But that's the end of this video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and all that other YouTube jazz. See ya, everybody.